Hi guys, this is Christian from First Web Designer, and I'm here again with a new video tutorial for you on HTML5 or CSS3. And this time it's mostly a CSS3 tutorial because we're gonna work with HTML4.01 and we're gonna create what you can see here on my screen, which is this contact form. It's not functional. It's not something that you can use right away, but what I want to teach you about is how to code or how to style a contact form because there are many plugins out there for WordPress or Joomla or whatever content management system you use. There are also many PHP plugins you can find, and they all are functional and they work as they should, but they don't look as good as you would like them to. So in this tutorial I will teach you how to style a contact form, and I already have the code here, but I'm gonna delete it, and the same in style CSS. I'm gonna delete the CSS as well, and we go back to HTML. As you can see, it's nothing here anymore if we refresh it. And we're gonna start coding as you already learned in the previous tutorials with me, with creating um, this frame, you can say, of HTML head, and then we close the head, and then we have body and we close the body. This is basic, and now we're gonna start working on the header, where you add a title. We want to add a title, let's say CSS3 contact form. Let's close it, and then you have meta char set equals UTF-8, and then you want to link the style sheet href is style.css, type is text/css, and then you have media equals all. Great. So now we have the header, and we can already start working on the body. We want to add a contact form title, which we already have here, and we want to start working on the contact form. And HTML4.01, as I told you, that's what we're gonna work with today, has some different variables which we're gonna use today, like form or input or label or text area, and I'm gonna tell you what every and each one of these variables is and does when we're gonna get to them. So we're gonna start with the form, and we're gonna give it a class of form. Form is one of those variables I was talking about, and obviously it creates this framework for a form. It doesn't do anything right now because there's no content in it. And we're gonna have to add this paragraph. We're gonna work a lot with paragraphs today, and we're gonna close it. We're gonna call it name because this is the field where the user will have to write his name. And now is another new variable maybe for you called input, and we're gonna give it a type of text. There are different types of inputs available. We're gonna use text today, and we're gonna use something else called submit for today, but there are many more of them. What input text does is that it creates a field where a user can put in some text, and we're gonna have to name it somehow. We're gonna name it name because here is where the user will have to fill in his name, and we're gonna need to add an ID to it. We're gonna call it name, and we're gonna add a placeholder to it, and the placeholder, let's say John Doe, and let's close this one, and then we're gonna want to add a label for name. What this means is that we just added a label for the input called name. So if here instead of name would be something, then we have a label for something, but we're gonna keep it with a name, name. So we have a label for name, where we're gonna write a guideline for the user. And then if we refresh it, we already have one of the fields that we need. As you can see, this place showed you here the placeholder variable. You might be used to those contact forms where you click on the field and then the placeholder disappears. Well, this doesn't happen here because that thing that you were used to is made with JavaScript or jQuery with the onClick function, and we're not gonna have that right now. We're not gonna work with JavaScript yet. Whenever you click on it, the placeholder doesn't disappear. However, it disappears if you write something, or if you write anything, or if you write whatever you want to write. And if you delete it, the placeholder will be there again to offer the user some guidelines. We want to add two other fields, the email and the website, and basically we can just copy this two and just rename it. Let's say email. We're gonna use this for email. The user will have to fill in his email. Placeholder is mail.example.com. Label for email because that's what the name of the input is, and then email here. And the last class, we're going to call it web with the name and the ID as well, web, and the placeholder will be www.example.com. It's labeled for web, and we want to ask for the website, and that's how it looks until now. The next field that we're going to add could as well be could be as this ones, and we're just gonna have to give it a bigger or a larger width and height. I'm talking about the field where the user has to fill in some text, but I would suggest you to do it in a different way, and I'm gonna show you a bit later why. We're still gonna have a P class because that's the paragraph where the user writes something. We're gonna call it text because here is where the text is gonna be written by the user. But instead of saying input type, we're gonna use something called text area, and we're gonna name it text. And we're gonna give it a placeholder as well. Write something to us, and then we close the text area. And now we have text area. Why I wanted to use text area instead of input is because the input doesn't have this small corner which you can just drag around and make this as big as you want to. And this is good from a usability point of view because, or for a user experience point of view actually, because you want to offer the user a bigger field to write in. It will be very difficult to write a large text here. So you want to offer the user the opportunity of playing with this. That's why instead of using input, you're gonna use text area. And we last we want to add a button, which is also a P class, but we will call it submit. Then we close it, and then we're gonna add another input type, but we're not gonna add text because this is not a text, but this is a button. Input type equals submit is a predefined HTML5 variable which will add a button, and we're gonna give it a value of send. And now you see it adds this button, and we have the HTML5 already. It's that simple to code a contact form in HTML5. Now we move to the style, and we want to start with the body and make this contact form look nice. So we style the body, and we say we give it a padding so it's not so much to the left. We will want some margins look nicer, much better, and a font size of, let's say, 13 pixels, and a font, let's say, Verdana Tahoma, and then all sans serifs, and it looks much better right now. And we also want to style the H2. The title, we want to give it a margin of on the bottom of 20 pixels. We want to give it a new color that we're going to use a bit later on as well. And the color that I chose to use is 474E69, is a shadow of is a blue. You can see this is black and this is blue. I hope you can notice it on your screens. Good. Now we move on to the contact forms after styling the body, and we want to start adding some. Want to start working on this 3 input and the text area. I'll make it a bit bigger and give it maybe a font size. So we're gonna style input and text area together this time, and we're gonna give it a padding of, let's say, 10 pixels. We want to give it a border 1 pixel solid of E5, 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 and a width, as I told you earlier, I want to make them a bit bigger, of 200 pixels. Look much better. We want to give it a color of a gray. I don't want them to be black, so we're gonna use this gray, and you can already see when you start typing here, it's a gray instead of a black, which is standard. If we delete this and save it, if you would write here, it would be black, but we don't want that. We want it to be gray. Great. And we want to add some border shadows or box shadows, because you add a shadow to the whole box. It's not a border shadow, it's a box shadow, and it's something that I already did, so I won't spend time doing it right now, but it's something you can play with. You can go here to box shadow and play with it, you know, add all kinds of variables and so on, but I don't want that right now. So I'm gonna go back and make it as I made it when I created this contact form, 0 pixel and 8 pixel, and what I want to do is copy it 2 times and add those vendor prefixes which you learned, which I taught you about in the previous tutorials. As you can see, they have a border shadow, or a box shadow, sorry. All the boxes, all the fields have a shadow right now. We also want to modify the text area, which is this one, because usually you want it to be bigger than the rest, because that's where paragraphs of text can be written. So this time we also modify text area, and we make it a width of 400 pixels and a height of 150 pixels. It's nice for a user to be able to play with this. However, if you have some content here, in case you do, you might not want the user to be able to do this. And what you can do about it is go here and say, and give it a max width of 400 pixels, which means that the user can still play with this, but only the height, well, only with the height, but he cannot drag. You see, I tried to drag to the right, but I cannot drag it because it's already at its maximum width. But that's something you might not want to do. Whatever, it's up to you. I also want to add line height, let's say 20 pixels. So it's a bit too much, I think. Let's say 18. Yeah. Only for the user to be able to, you know, read. If he writes a lot of text here, he should be able to read it again before submitting it. And you should be able, or you should offer him a nice design, some line height, you know, beautiful typeface, in order for him to easier to read this text easier, not have difficulties. But that's more about styling, and you already know those concepts, so I cannot teach you much more there. As you can see now, if we come here and hover on this fields, nothing happens. So I want to teach you a new variable of HTML or of CSS, and there's not that much of a variable that I teach you, but it's something that I teach you how to use. It's we have the hover, and then we want this to modify on hover for the text area as well. And we want to use focus, which is something that you might not have heard of. What it does is that it modifies the box or the field that you apply it on whenever you have it active, so whenever you write on it. And let's just make it simple. Let's add a border of one, or just a border color, because the borders, we have them already, 1 pixel solid of C9, 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 which is a gray to black, a very dark gray. And let's add to it a box shadow. And actually we pretty much want the same as here, only we want it to be a bit more easier to see, a bit more visible. 0 instead of 0, 1. Let's see. So as you can see, whenever you hover on this with a mouse on this field, they look like they're active. Unfortunately, on Safari, this focus will not be able to be seen, because on Safari this blue border is on default. So whenever you click here, it's gonna look like, no, it is already active. But on other browsers and maybe on PC, I think you'll be able to see it. And we also want to go here and work on these labels. You know, they don't look as good as we would like them to. And if we go back, you can see in the class, in the whole class called form, you have labels. So we go here and then we say form label. And what we want to do here is give it a margin of 10 pixels and to make them as gray as the rest of the text. And as you can see, they look much better right now. The last thing we want to work on is the submit button, because I don't think it looks so good. So let's give it let's make it a bit more visible. Let's give it a width of I'm sorry, submit input. Let's give it a width of 100 pixels. Yes. Why it's submit input, if we go back to here, it's because you only work with the input of submit. I suddenly opened Photoshop and I do not know why. That shouldn't have happened. Great. So instead of working with the whole or all the inputs here on the whole page as we did before, now we only want to work with this one, with the input under submit. So that's why instead of writing input like we did here or here, we will only write submit input. And then we want to give it a height of 40 pixels. Want to add a background, and I want to use the same color that I used here for this H2. So we add it here, only instead of color we call it background color, and it already looks nice. So we want to modify the text because it's gray and it doesn't look so good on blue, so let's make it white. Yes, and what I would like to do, although it's not required, it's also a bit of styling, I would like to add some border radius, but very fine, very small border radius, so it's not so visible. And let's say 3 pixels, and copy this as usual, as we usually do, twice, and add the 2 vendor prefixes, WebKit and Moz. And maybe you cannot see it, but if we zoom in, you can see there's a bit of a border radius and it looks much better here. It just gives more meaning to me anyway. Well, we styled it. That's pretty much it. I don't have anything for you anymore today, because that's pretty much all that I wanted to show you. So as you can see, in a bit over 100 lines of code, you can do this. As I told you in the beginning, this is not and will never be a fully functional contact form, because you need PHP scripts behind it, or JavaScript, or whatever it is you want to work with. So today I didn't thought you how to create a contact form, a fully functional contact form, but how to style a contact form. And again, now you will be able to use all those plugins WordPress plugins, for example, which offer you fully functional contact forms that don't look so good as you might want them to. Now you learn how to modify them to make them look nicer, and how to use some fields or some new variables of HTML and CSS, for example, the placeholder, um, or the text area, or the input types, and so on, or the submit button. So in case you didn't know this, I taught them today. Um, in case you didn't see my previous two tutorials for First Web Designer, which are already on the web page, so you can go back and look for them. I'm gonna leave two links for you down in the description on YouTube, or if you watch this directly on our page, then I'm gonna write the links in the article, so you can go to the HTML5 CSS3 theme that we created together on a video with a video tutorial, and then to a CSS3 drop down navigation, which was also very nice tutorial. Got a lot of good feedback on it. That was from me today. I always look forward to your feedback. You already know that. So please, if you have something you want to tell me, just post a comment below, and yeah, share this. Make sure it gets to the people that need it, or to the people who need it. And again, this is Christian from firstwebdesigner.com with a CSS3 tutorial. I'm looking forward to see you on my next tutorial, which will be posted on the webpage soon. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Have fun!